Hello everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone SE 2022 model and see if it's still worth buying in 2024. Now, this iPhone has kind of approached 2 years old as of this point, and the thing I'll definitely tell you is I like these, iPhones. I liked them when they first came out, and I like the iPhone SE 3 now, but in a completely different way, and I'll explain it right now throughout this video. But if you want to buy some iPhones I would recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, this is the thing I would tell you about the iPhone SE 3rd generation. This is an iPhone that I look at and I'm like, wow, this isn't, an iPhone that's a very, very interestingly weird deal in the brand new market. So this iPhone first came out in 2022, came out like around the March timeframe, and you can see that the design of this iPhone really hasn't changed much from even 2017 from the iPhone 8. So this thing looks identically the same way for the most part as the iPhone 8 as far as we can tell. It has that same 4.7 inch display on the front. It has True Tone. It gets fairly bright for an IPS panel. And that's kind of it. Beyond that, this is a pretty basic panel. There really isn't anything insanely going on with it. And it's pretty much what I'd expect. It's a basic panel, it gets the job done, but you're getting a very outdated panel already. It's 750p resolution, it has a massive bezel on the top and a massive bezel at the bottom, and that's kind of what you're getting here. It's an outdated panel with an outdated body, and I would hate to recommend a phone to people that's already going to be outdated when you buy it, and that is precisely what's going on with the body of this particular phone. It's just an outdated, body, it's an outdated panel, it's an outdated everything, so why would I recommend a phone to people that, is already, old? So as far as I can tell, that's kind of what's going on here. And like I said, I wouldn't want to recommend a phone to people that's already old. And this is exactly what's going on with the body of this particular iPhone. The sides of this iPhone still look great. You're getting the lightning port at the bottom, which just allows you to quickly connect this thing to other, chargers and accessories. It's a pretty good looking body for the rest of it. It definitely, is not something I'd complain about here. So that right there is another thing too. You have, the standard glass back on the back of this particular iPhone. And I think it looks very good from that perspective as well. You're getting that single camera setup on the top as well, which is very cool. So having that single camera is great. And I'll talk more about that in a second. You're getting that, wireless charging on the back side, IP certification, a very, very basic type of phone as far as I can tell. It is probably one of the most basic phones I've ever seen in my life that Apple's currently made. And get this. This iPhone, as of this point, costs $429 in the brand new market. That makes negative sense in my opinion. That I don't see how Apple could have ever made a phone like this that costs this price that gives you so little in, my opinion from the body standpoint. And it's not to say I hate this phone. I actually think it's a decent value in the used market. I think if you're going to buy an iPhone in the used market, it's not a bad option. For $200 for what you're getting is not bad. But for $429 in the brand new market, that is not a good deal at all. Very, very poor value. And I would recommend avoiding this iPhone if you're going to buy it in the brand new market, just from the body standpoint alone. But this takes us to the camera side. This is also a very, very disappointing aspect of this phone. This phone has that single, 12 megapixel camera on the back. And like I said, it is not a good camera here. It is a single camera setup, which is fine if your single camera is good. Unfortunately, with this one, it is an outdated single camera. So with this thing, you're getting, your 4K 60 on the back, which is very respectable. Having that type of camera quality with that resolution is fairly good. And that is something I actually like a lot from this particular phone. But you're also getting 1080p on the front, which is very, very, I would say very basic as far as I can tell. It really isn't that great of a camera quality as far as I can tell from the front or the back, which is kind of an issue here. It's very basic, and that's just kind of what you're getting. If you're doing things, if you're going to Snapchat and Instagram and those type of apps, then that's perfectly fine. It's going to be perfectly fine for the most part. But if you're taking it up a notch and you're playing heavy intensive, if you're taking it up a notch and you want to, film really amazing videos or anything, the things you're going to notice and the areas you're going to see this thing kind of, taking an L at are probably areas like the, lack of ultra wide and telephoto lens, the lack of 4K 60 on the front, and the lack of everything that comes along with that. That is in and of itself a very, very mediocre side of this phone. And that's just something that I'm not the, biggest fan of in this particular device. So although it's not a bad phone by any means, I'm a pretty big fan of this phone series, not this particular device, but the phone lineup I'm a fan of. This one pretty much has one of the worst camera to price ratio as far as I can tell, without a doubt. So that kind of covers it up there as well. In terms of software, this is probably one of the better aspects of this device. So the thing that actually goes really well with this phone, which you may not believe depending on what it is that this phone is going to last for a very long time. It came out in 2022, and it's probably going to last for 5 to 6 years after its initial, release. So this phone could end up lasting all the way up until 2027, which makes this mean that this is probably not even halfway through its life cycle. Like it may be halfway through its life cycle like now, but it probably has like another 3 years at least going ahead of it. So this is probably a really good area of this phone as far as I can tell as well. So if you're wanting to get a phone that is going to be here for many years and it's going to be supported for many years, although I would not recommend this phone from like, really any other area, I will tell you from the software side, it is a pretty decent phone. You're still going to be missing out on some features here and there, but it is actually very, very nice that you are basically getting those types of features on this particular device from that perspective, that it's going to be lasting that long on this phone. So that in and of itself kind of gets a thumbs up for me too, which is another really, really big thing. Now, the area of this phone that I kind of look at that I'm like, oh my goodness, like the performance of this phone is good. Like it's a good performing phone. The only issue from the performance side of this particular device is that you're getting a lack of gesture-based design. So this thing is giving you that Apple A15 bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM. Now from the performance side, that's actually not bad. Like that's not like a bad amount of performance to get into a device like this. So you may look at this, device and be like, oh my goodness, like it's terrible or something, but it's actually not a bad device. Like it's actually a pretty good performing device from that perspective. The only problem I have with this phone from the performance side is that the gestures are just a little lacking. So they're just not that great. They can be a little bit faulty because you're not getting gestures. It just seems like you're just clicking a button every time, which can be annoying. But other than that, I think it's actually a pretty good performing phone. It has the same exact chipset as the iPhone 13. Basically, it's giving you the same exact internals as the iPhone 13, which is a really, really good area of this phone. Like having that type of capability is awesome. That is something I like a lot about this particular device, is that you can just go ahead, boot this thing up, and it's a very fast phone at your fingertips. The only issue I have with this particular phone, like I said, is that to go and maneuver around this whole entire thing, you have to click a button, and that can be very, very annoying. So constantly clicking a button is like, can be annoying kind of for the most things, and like that's why I think like even something like an iPhone 10 can feel a little bit smoother than something like the iPhone SE 3rd generation. So that right there is fine. I think beyond that, it's not really that big of a deal. But like I said, it can be kind of an annoyance for some people if you're constantly going through and like having to click a button every single time. But I don't even think it's like that ginormous of a deal for the most part. So to kind of sum it up, what I'll definitely tell you is I think the iPhone SE 3rd generation is an interesting device to say the least. I genuinely have never felt stronger about a brand new iPhone than this thing. This phone has been out for 2 years now, and I've been saying the same thing every single year. I genuinely don't think this is an iPhone I would recommend anyone to buy. I think there are significantly better iPhones, and even in the brand new market, I'd recommend the iPhone 13 for like $200 more than this is a much better deal, and I'd much rather spend more money, for a brand new phone than this thing. But I would recommend buying a used iPhone 13, which will be around the same price as this device. Otherwise, you're much better off buying something that is, newer, better quality rather than this particular phone. So I loved, the iPhones. I love the iPhone SEs, but this 3rd generation, I've never been a fan of, and I probably would not recommend buying this phone as far as I can tell. So that kind of covers it up here. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. The like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.